Dr. Lauderbach, and I'd like to welcome you to Nursing 7020 Organizational and System Leadership. This is a very short video. I want to show you an overview of the course, some key points in the syllabus, give a little more information about the assignments, and then a few key points about the Blackboard learning platform, the way we've set it up for this course. So let's get into the syllabus. Pretty standard format. We're using the Quality Matters format, which is fairly new. If you haven't been in a course with us that was developed recently, this may look a little different than the older courses. But I'm going to show you where everything is, so you shouldn't have any trouble. I'm going to skip over the things that are pretty consistent in all of them and things that you can get from reading. I want to jump right into the assignments. So there are no tests or quizzes in the class. There are 4 assignments and a discussion board. The weeks of the discussion board are shown here. I won't have you do a discussion board in the weeks that you have a written assignment due, but I would point out that you will have reading assignments those weeks. There are then, in addition to the discussion board, these 4 assignments that you see here. The first one is a standalone paper. It is 1 to 2 pages, and it's a position paper. You may have written them in other courses you've had. We'll go over the instructions a little bit more in just a minute. The next one is a personal leadership philosophy statement, where you will develop your ideas about your own philosophy for leadership based on both what you read in the book and what you will find through internet searching, other things to substantiate kind of how you shaped your philosophy. Again, short paper. Then we have 2 papers that go together. The first one is called the Practice Initiative Conceptual Paper. So you're going to have an idea that you develop based on where you work or things that you know about healthcare delivery that you could suggest an improvement or an area for growth, improved access, improved outcomes, something of that nature. And you're going to develop at first step a conceptual paper. It has some references. You'll do your lit review for the conceptual paper, but you won't fill in all of the aspects that you would need to for a full proposal. You'll follow that with a longer paper, which here has the word integration, meaning you will take the concepts you've learned in the course, bring them together, and apply them to your proposal. That's the integration part. But it's the same practice initiative that you wrote about in the conceptual paper, but developed more. Why would you do that? The reason is, in a real organization, it's not a one-shot deal to bring forward a proposal for a new initiative. It requires some steps, feedback from your colleagues, and a test with the organization and with executive leadership to see if they're going to support the idea, knowing that you have more development yet to do on it. So that's the purpose of a conceptual paper. Once you gain the support of the organization and you get their feedback and you talk to stakeholders more maybe than you did in developing your conceptual paper, you will adjust your approach to the initiative, perhaps, very likely, and then you're going to develop a bigger, more developed proposal. There are rubrics for how this happens, but that's the concept. Why 2 papers about the same topic? First one, conceptual, test it in the organization, maybe make modifications based on what you found out, and then you would get a green light to go forward with developing a proposal. You bring that proposal back, more developed, again, an iterative process, before you would go to the 3rd step, which would be to develop a business plan or a tactical plan to bring that initiative forward, which would eventually get final approval for implementation. What follows then are more detailed instructions for each of those assignments. One tip I would give you when you're writing See how these rubrics have these sections in them? When you're writing a paper, you should always use headings as you move from one area of discussion to the next so that your reader can follow where you're going. It also helps if the faculty can follow where you're going because we're grading based on this rubric. My recommendation to you is make at least a heading for each of the sections of the rubric. You don't have to do it word for word, but it will help me in reading your paper and giving you all the points you should earn, and it will help you in organizing your thoughts around the rubric. So headings are important. Beyond that, I really recommend that when you're writing papers, and you can see some of them become a good deal more complex. This, for example, is your final initiative proposal. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 areas. I would have 12 headings if I were writing this paper. If you don't, and you meet everything in the rubric, you get all the points. It's just a tip. The other thing I want to tell you is I have moved us to APA 7. Let me go back up here in the texts. If you've been writing in graduate school or other places, you may be very accustomed and used to using 6. But we are using 7, which was really brought forward in January. And I recommend that you use 7. Get the manual and use 7. If you're using 6, as long as you use it correctly, I'm not going to take any points off. But what you're going to find in 7, and I think I put something in the course to help you see the difference between 6 and 7, is just simpler. There are parts of it. It's basically very much the same, but some of the format for citing, referencing, and that running head that you see in APA 6 papers gets simpler in 7. So I recommend that you take a look at it. And the other thing you can always use is there's a website from Purdue University called Purdue OWL, O-W-L, Online Writing Lab, Purdue OWL. Get used to using that, www.purdueowl.edu, I think it is. But if you Google Purdue OWL, you'll find it. I recommend you do that. Let's take a look now over at the course in Blackboard. So to get in to Blackboard, this looks familiar to you, I imagine. Click on Portal. You don't necessarily have to log into your portal to get to Blackboard. You just click on Blackboard. Your courses will populate over here. You'll pick us, and you'll get something that looks like this. Here's something, if you haven't been in one of these Quality Matters formatted courses, you may look up and down over here for where do I put my assignments? Well, you put them in Module 0. They're right here, Module 0. When you click into Module 0, here they are. The upload for the position paper, the philosophy statement, strategic practice initiative, conceptual paper, and that. And then I did put the writing between 6 and 7 writing guides. So that will show you kind of the things that have changed between 6 and 7. I also put in a really good overall APA review done by a faculty member who's now since retired, but it's really excellent. One of the things I see students doing that I end up having to take points for that I don't like to is they understand that there's formatting in the APA 6 model, but they don't get the style part of it. There's a style component to APA 6 that you will read in the manual in the first part of the book. A lot of people just skip right over that and go right to how do I do a heading, how do I do an in-text citation, how do I do a reference list. But what you see in the style is how you're supposed to use numbers, how you're supposed to talk about populations of people. If you want to talk about someone who is a member of the LGBTQ, for example, community, how are you supposed to talk about that? How do you refer to them? Gay people, gays, lesbians. That's all in the style book. And so it's worthwhile, and the quick way to do it is go to the back of the book, look at the index, and just scan that index so you can see the things that are defined in the style. Okay? Good. I hope that helps you. I look forward to seeing you online, and I think we'll have a great semester. It's a great book. We use mostly Borkowski. We do use Maccabee. The course follows Borkowski pretty closely. I think it's a great text, and I look forward to seeing you in the discussion board and online.